In 2020, I was one of the many Americans and probably people around the world who got into the houseplant craze. I was working from home and my boyfriend just bought me two houseplants because I had just mentioned it in passing, which was really kind. But then that opened up the floodgates. So here we are. We are in July 2022. I probably have about maybe 16 houseplants. Yeah, I'm just guessing around that number. So it may not be that many, but it's still, to me, a decent amount. I know a lot of people I see on YouTube and, all the other socials, they have like a whole bunch. But for me, what I have, I feel like it's really sufficient. And I just wanted to share some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. I would say the first thing that is really important is that you actually want to caretake for a living thing. If you just want something that's pretty, buy just a piece of art. Caretaking for a plant is caretaking for another living thing. So with that being said, you need to think about what are its needs, what are its wants. What kind of lighting situation, what kind of watering situation, what kind of pot, what kind of soil, all those kind of things. And really the simplest way to think about it is, where is that plant native to? So a lot of houseplants have like big foliage, and a lot of them are native to very tropical climates. And so if it comes from like the Amazon rainforest or a tropical climate in Southeast Asia, you think about, okay, so where it came from in its native form, it was probably underneath on the ground or lower to the ground underneath a tree of canopies. So then you realize, okay, so it probably got a whole bunch of light, but the light was filtered since there were so many trees on top. So then now that we have these plants in a pot, you could try to provide it for the same thing. So we're not saying like no light. You actually want it to have a good amount of light, because I'm sure they're, and where they're native to, they are getting a good amount of light. But there's just some filters, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because it's like peeking through all the trees and all that stuff. So just realize that if you have a house plant and you put it directly in your windowsill, maybe the leaves can burn if it's just on the windowsill and the windowsill is like emitting a lot of heat. But it also depends. This is another thing I've learned with houseplants. It depends on what direction the sun is facing. So on my app, I just use the, it just comes with your iPhone. It's just a little app that shows you like north, south, east, and west. Because what I'm trying to get to is that you need to figure out where the sun is facing, where it rises, and that does make a difference. So some plants if you watch other YouTubers, they're like, this is a north facing window, south facing window. They say that because it depends on how much sun gets in. It's just the compass tool, all this for that. So yeah. So I have a window back here, and I know that it is west facing sun. So west facing, I know generally is for pretty strong. So anyways, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because I can't really speak too much on it in an eloquent way. You can just Google it. Just know that where the sun rises and sets and all of that and how many hours the sun comes in affects it. So yeah, so we think about where it's native to, how can we best try to implement that in our home. So you try to put it in a place where it gets adequate amount of light, not too much light where it's going to burn the leaves. You put it, and then also if it's coming from the Amazon rainforest, it's probably going to like some high humidity. So see if you can somehow just put little ways to raise the humidity. So ways to raise the humidity is, if you have a humidifier and you want to buy one, I actually don't have one. I just kind of puts little vases around with water, and it looks kind of cute and stuff. And so I just kind of leave it out. You could do a pebble tray. So underneath the plant, you put a little tray and put some water in it. You can even do seashells or something cute, and just put water in there, so that way there's humidity that's kind of emitted. You don't want the plant sitting inside of that water, because then that's going to cause root rot, because if you think about it, these plants, like if it came from the Amazon rainforest, it's in the ground and the ground may be moist, but there's a whole ecosystem, like a whole bunch of other, the soil isn't just so compacted. So there's like the water is kind of evenly distributed everywhere. But in a pot, it's just not that ecosystem, you know? So you don't want it to be over flooded with too much water. I just want to be able to drink it all. But you just are trying to find a way to add humidity to it. In regards to watering, again, you just kind of have to get to know your plant. You know, the bigger the pot, the more you can go without watering, because the bigger the pot, the more water is held. The smaller the pot, generally, the more you need to water it. The same thing, and you know, you'll get to know if your plant gets super thirsty. And again, also in regards to watering, you need to know how much sunlight it's getting. The more sun it gets, the more water it's going to use. So yeah, I mean, those kind of things you can kind of easily Google, but these are just like high level things that I've kind of learned along the way to make my plants happy. Another thing is, you know, try not to put them right underneath your AC vent or your heat vent. That's super unnatural and it like freaks them out. So let's think. So tip number 1 is make sure you actually want to caretake for another living thing. If you don't, just buy some beautiful art decorations. Number 2, think of where they're native. Number 3, you know, think about their sunlight, what they want. Realize that north, south, east, west facing windows and porches make a difference of the sun. And then number 4, I think it's 4, your watering frequency is going to be contingent upon how big your pot is. And number 5 is, you know, you'll probably get it from a beautiful nursery. Just know that when you get it home, it's going to change its form. Not saying it's like going to completely die on you, but just think about it. Just, you have to allow the plant to live and evolve, because when it came from that nursery, it had like super perfect, pristine environment, as much as they could do outside of it where it's native from. And they grew it in like perfect area where it grows upright and like all evenly. And you know, when you're at home, you don't have that perfect environment for them. But you know, things want to live, things want to survive. So it will survive. It's just going to take off a different form. And just know when you get it home, it may go through a little initial shock. So yeah, just know that it's going to take its own form, and that's okay. That's like natural. And one other thing in regards to watering is, I'm a big fan because I happen to want to give too much love to my plants, so I can easily overwater. Back to what I was talking about, like if a plant is like naturally in the ground and you water it, that water isn't just puddled all together, it will like filter out. But in a pot, it's not going to go anywhere. Even if you have the drainage holes at the bottom, it's still just going to kind of puddle down there at the bottom. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you are like me and you overwater, which most people do with their houseplants, a prudent way to water them is a tactic called bottom watering. So bottom watering is just the exact opposite of watering a plant from the top, which is the normal traditional way where you just take something and water it from the top. Bottom watering is where you take the plant and you set it in a thing of water, so your kitchen sink, or maybe you just bring a bowl over and let it sit in there for like 15-20 minutes, however long. Again, the bigger the pot, the longer you let it sit. The smaller the pot, the shorter amount of time. But even for a small pot, I do it for at least like 10-15 minutes. And the good thing about bottom watering is that the plant will take exactly what it needs. And also, it kind of stimulates the roots to grow down. So we want a nice strong root system, because sometimes if you do the opposite of me and underwater, the plant is going to try to reach for that water. And so it may go up and then it may not stimulate the roots to be nice and deep. And we want strong roots. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I probably have a lot more tips. I'm very passionate about my plant babies. And I'm passionate about just plants and nature in general. And I just want to say that this journey of the past 2.5 years of watching them grow, you know, watching some, you know, die, and all the journey has been really, really rewarding. It's a really sweet journey to watch. Um, and it's a learning thing. And you know, that as so is life. It's this idea of being patient, this idea of adapting, this idea of pivoting when something doesn't seem to be working well, but also doing it in a gentle way where you're not going to shock the whole system. So anyways, that's just the way my mind works, I think, in metaphors. Yeah, if you have any plant questions, let me know. I'll try to answer as simple as possible. There are a lot of awesome YouTubers that I can recommend as well. Anyways, I'm gonna stop. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for listening. And you know, if you can go out there and look at a plant, even if you don't like have to have a house plant. Sorry, my dog. You don't need to have a house plant. You could just go outside and just look at some really pretty plants and just take pictures and enjoy their beauty. So that is it. Gonna stop. From my heart to yours, I'm sending you LOVE with an exclamation mark. And Freya does too.